what kind of changes do you see people making to cause the supply chain to be more resilient for the future?
Yeah, well, I think, the first place I think about if we look at SAP is the business network, and how the business network is being used to really digitize supply chains, allowing people to put their products up in a global marketplace that's available digitally, and how it brings buyers and sellers together, right? And there's some certain advantages to that. I think that most companies should look at the business network and look at that with a very strong eye and say, maybe this is a way for me to find product and find suppliers that can help, diversify my supply chain when I'm, on the input side. On the output side, when global disruption occurs and maybe you're not selling, or there's a recession, maybe it opens yourself up to customers you hadn't thought of before. And I think those are some of the things I think that can happen. And when you talk about, where do we go with this? I think, everyone's talking about it. KPMG said that logistics disruption is the number one thing impacting global supply chains in 2022. EventWatch, which is an artificial intelligence organization, said that, the number of supply chain disruptions increased dramatically over the last couple of years, right? So when we think about that, they're doubling every year according to EventWatch AI. Right. So what this tells us is this isn't just again, where you and I started. It's not just a single hurdle to get over. We just got to get better at doing it. Right. Yeah. And we've got to get better at understanding how all these things are going to work, and how we actually get ahead of them. And so I think, we talked about business networks. We talked about understanding that technology is going to be the epicenter of how we solve these problems. That our ability to have really good internal systems that can manage our supply chains, that can understand when things don't look right, who can help us with quality concerns, can automate, are really how the modern organization is going to win.
Right. People talk about recession, but what I wonder about is this recession, if we're in a recession or on the verge of recession or whatever, because I don't think anybody's made up their mind completely about it. No. Is it driven by, the supply side or demand, or both? Or what's kind of causing us to be in this, I'll call it the precipice of recession?
Yeah, well, or are we, right? To your point, are we, right? And depending on when you pick up the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, or your periodical of choice, or your newspaper of choice, you get very conflicting answers, which I think again speaks to this notion that we live in a markedly different time. That these markers that we march to are a little fuzzier than they used to be. So, I think there's some parts of our economy that are definitely feeling a pain, and there's other parts that are still chugging forward like always. So I think that, what we have to look at is, it's a little bit of both, right? That, it is a little bit of supply being constrained, which is driving prices up, right? And trying to cool that off. And areas where demand might have moved, I think it's moving much faster, right? I think it's moving much faster than it ever has before. I think digitization is both a cause and an effect, right? It's a cause in the sense that in order to remain competitive, you have to digitize more. But as you digitize more, you find that speed becomes, and we accelerate even faster. And things move around much quicker. Think about our buying habits today and the difference in speed between jumping in a vehicle, hopefully, soon to be, a battery powered and EV, right? There's a lot of change in that industry. And, and going to a store versus ordering something through Amazon or Walmart. The ability for you to have things delivered in a delivery economy versus one that caused you to get into a vehicle or go out on foot and buy your products dramatically changes everything. And it moves the economy along at a much faster scale.